We've all had that one friend, the one who makes your phone light up, and instead of feeling excited, you feel a tiny knot of dread in your stomach. You tell yourself you're being sensitive. You tell yourself they've just had a hard week or that you're reading too much into things. But what if the person you're calling your bestie is actually the primary source of your stress? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the subtle art of the toxic friendship and figuring out if it's time to fix the bond or finally cut the cord. Toxic friends rarely start out toxic. They start out fun, intense, and incredibly supportive. But over time, the dynamic shifts. It's like a slow poison. To truly understand if you are in a toxic situation, we have to look past the surface level fights and look at the consistent patterns that define your relationship. One of the most insidious signs is the backhanded cheerleader. They celebrate your wins, but always with a sting. Imagine you finally land your dream job after months of searching. An ordinary friend might say, "I'm so happy for you. It's crazy how they're just handing those out now, right? I heard that company is really struggling to find people." You feel insulted, but you can't quite put your finger on why because they technically said the words, "happy for you." They possess a unique talent for making your greatest achievements feel like strokes of luck or minor accidents. Then there is the passive-aggressive punisher. This is the friend who doesn't tell you when they're mad. They just make you feel it. They use silence as a weapon. If you go out with other people or forget to reply to a text for 2 hours, they go cold. You find yourself walking on eggshells, constantly apologizing for things you didn't even do, just to bring the temperature of the room back to normal. This isn't friendship, it's emotional hostage-taking. You begin to modify your behavior not out of love, but out of fear of their reaction. Consider the competitive mirror. This person can't let you have a single unique experience. If you have a headache, they have a migraine. If you're tired, they haven't slept in 3 days. If you buy a new car, they suddenly start looking for a better model. This constant one-upping is a sign that they don't see you as a companion, but as a yardstick to measure their own worth. Think about the high-profile falling out between Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie in the mid-2000s. While the public only saw the headlines, it was clear that the foundation of their bond crumbled when the balance of power and attention shifted. When a friend stops being your teammate and starts being your rival, the relationship is already failing. We also have the gossip gatekeeper. This friend is always the first to tell you what someone else said about you. They'll say, "I shouldn't tell you this, but Sarah was saying some really mean things about your new house." At first, it feels like they're looking out for you, but eventually you realize that they are the common denominator in every drama. They thrive on being the middleman of misery. If they are talking to you about everyone else, you can be 100% certain they are talking about you when you leave the room. They use information as currency to keep themselves at the center of your social world. Then there's the energy vampire. You leave every hangout feeling like you need a 3-hour nap because the conversation is a one-way street, where they are the only driver, passenger, and mechanic. Think of that friend who spends 40 minutes venting about their breakup. But the moment you mention you're having a hard day at work, they suddenly remember they have an appointment and have to go. It's a parasitic exchange of emotional labor. They don't want a friend, they want an unpaid therapist. A more subtle type is the chronic doubter. Every time you have a new idea, starting a business, going back to school, or joining a gym, they are there to list the reasons why it won't work. They frame it as looking out for you or being realistic, but the reality is that your growth scares them. If you change, they might be left behind. This is often why childhood friends drift apart. One person grows and the other person tries to pull them back down to the level where they were both comfortable. Maybe you recognize the joking critic, the one who insults your clothes, your partner, or your dreams, then hides behind the phrase, "Oh my God, you're so sensitive. I was just kidding." This is a tactic designed to keep you off balance and lower your self-esteem so you feel like you need them. Or perhaps it's the crisis manufacturer. This person only calls when their world is ending. They need money, a ride, or a shoulder to cry on. Once you've helped them put out the fire, they disappear until the next spark flies. Oprah Winfrey once spoke about a friend who would call her only to gossip or bring negativity into her space. Oprah realized that this person wasn't interested in her well-being, but in the proximity to her light. She had to learn that love and need are two very different things. If a friend only needs you when you are a tool for their convenience or a witness to their drama, they don't actually love you. They love the version of you that serves them. Once you realize the house is on fire, you have to decide, do you grab a fire extinguisher or do you run for the exit? If the friendship has years of history and you believe they aren't malicious, just unaware or going through a genuinely dark season, you can try managing the chaos through active boundaries. Managing a toxic friend requires a shift in your own behavior first. You have to move from deep 3-hour dinners to 45-minute coffee dates. This is low-stakes interaction. You limit the time they have to drain you. You can also try the gray rock method, where you become as uninteresting as a literal gray rock when they try to bait you into drama. If they start gossiping, you give short, boring answers like, "Oh, I wouldn't know," or "That's interesting." When you stop providing the emotional fuel they crave, they often naturally drift away to find a more reactive target. Sometimes you have to have the hard conversation. You tell them directly, "I value our history, but I've noticed our hangouts have become very one-sided lately. I need our friendship to be a place where we both get to speak and be heard." How they respond to that boundary tells you everything you need to know. A healthy friend will be hurt but will listen and attempt to change. A toxic friend will make themselves the victim, gaslight you into thinking you're the problem, and blame you for bringing it up. However, if you've tried to set boundaries and they've trampled over them, or if the friendship feels like a literal weight on your chest every single day, it's time to quit. You don't owe anyone a lifetime subscription to your energy just because you went to high school together or lived on the same floor in college. People change, and sometimes they change into people who are no longer compatible with your peace. Think of the famous breakups in Hollywood, like the rumored rifts between major stars who realize their values no longer aligned. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for your mental health is to stop pretending that everyone from your past belongs in your future. Think about a gardener. To grow a beautiful rosebush, they have to prune the dead branches. It's not an act of cruelty toward the branch, it's an act of survival for the bush. If you keep holding on to dead weight, you will never have the energy to blossom into the version of yourself you were meant to be. Every minute you spend managing a toxic person is a minute you aren't spending with someone who actually makes you feel alive. We often stay in these cycles because of sunk cost fallacy. We think, "I've known them for 10 years, I can't just walk away." But 10 years of a bad investment shouldn't justify an 11th year. It's easy to point fingers at the toxic person, but the hardest part of this journey is looking in the mirror. We often stay in these cycles because we don't believe we deserve better, or because we're addicted to being the fixer. We think if we can just love them enough or help them enough, they'll finally be the friend we need. But you cannot change someone who doesn't see an issue with their behavior. You are not a rehabilitation center for badly behaved adults. Leaving a toxic friend isn't just about losing someone, it's about reclaiming the space they were occupying. So someone healthy can finally move in. You are essentially clearing out the emotional clutter of your life to make room for people who actually want to see you shine. It's about realizing that no is a complete sentence and that your peace is non-negotiable. But what happens after you clear the space? Once the toxic noise fades, you might find your social circle feels a bit quiet. This is the moment to start looking for green flag friends, the ones who actually contribute to your evolution. The first kind of friend to seek out is the level up partner. This is the person who is also on a journey of self-improvement. When you tell them you're starting a new project, they don't list the risks. They ask, "How can I help you get started?" They push you because they are pushing themselves. Their success doesn't make you feel small. It makes you feel like anything is possible. Then there is the safe harbor. This is the friend who has seen you at your absolute worst, crying on the kitchen floor, failing a major test, or going through a messy breakup and didn't look at you with judgment. They are the ones who allow you to be vulnerable without using that vulnerability as ammunition later. In a world that is constantly asking you to perform, the safe harbor friend lets you just be. Don't overlook the truth teller. This isn't the same as the joking critic. The critic tears you down to feel superior. The truth teller calls you out because they want you to be your best self. If you're being unfair in a situation or making a reckless decision, they'll say, "Hey, I love you, but you're in the wrong here." You need at least one person in your life who isn't afraid to hurt your feelings if it means saving your character. Finally, look for the laughter anchor. This is the friend who reminds you that life isn't always a serious self-improvement seminar. They bring the playfulness back into your world. They are the ones who remember the inside jokes from 3 years ago and can make a boring grocery run feel like an adventure. Joy is a vital nutrient, and these friends are the primary source. When you start filling your life with these archetypes, the memory of that toxic friend begins to feel like a distant, slightly blurry dream. You realize that you weren't difficult to love or too sensitive. You were just in the wrong garden. As you sit here thinking about that one person whose name popped into your head the moment we started, I want you to ask yourself these 4 uncomfortable questions. First, if you met this person today, as the person you are right now, knowing everything you know about their habits, their loyalty, and their impact on your mental health, would you still choose to become their friend? If the answer is no, why are you still choosing them every day? Is it out of love, or is it out of a habit you're too tired to break? Second, are you holding on to the person they actually are today? Or are you mourning a ghost, the version of them from 5 years ago that no longer exists? We often fall in love with the potential of people or the memory of them rather than the reality standing right in front of us. Third, if your life is truly a sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, what does your current circle say about your future? Does it say you are headed toward growth, clarity, and success, or does it say you are stuck in a cycle of drama, depletion, and self doubt? Your environment dictates your trajectory. And finally, what are you afraid will happen if you let them go? Are you afraid of being alone, or are you afraid of who you might become once you no longer have them holding you back? Sometimes we keep toxic people around because their drama provides a convenient distraction from our own life goals. The hardest part of growing up is realizing that loyalty to a toxic person is actually just betrayal to yourself. You have one life. Who are you giving your time to, and more importantly, why?